Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at a two-handed mace that is pointed more directly at specifically rather, a Barbarian. And that is because it has some very nice Barbarian skills. If we take a look at the two-handed club here, the war club called Blood Tree Stump, you'll see that it has a very nice two-handed damage of 169 to 249, which is not bad at all for level 48. It does have a 124 strength requirement, which is also not bad for 48, especially for a barbarian who is building this particular class. We have a slow attack speed on this, so this is a relatively slow weapon, and it does not have any increased attack speed on it, which is kind of a devastating downside. However, due to recent changes in Whirlwind, you no longer necessarily have to have a weapon with high increased attack speed because you can now get attack speed from outside sources, which is something that was not possible before. Which means that you could potentially use this as a Whirlwind Barbarian. You would just need to have some nice IAS gloves, probably some IAS armor. At level 48, you'd probably rock something like Saigon's gloves and belt, and then you might be using like Twitch Throw for a little bit of extra attack speed there, maybe socketed with a 15% IAS jewel, and whatever kind of attack speed else you could get on other items. And it might make up for the fact that it's such a slow weapon. However, it does hit pretty hard, and it has some very nice effects, one of which is +2 Masteries, which means that your entire Mastery tree will get +2 skills. You get a little bit more defense, you get a little bit more resistances, you get a little bit more run speed and stamina, and you get a little bit more to your specific Mastery, so +2 to your Mace Mastery, which you would be using with something like this. And then on top of that, it also gives you +3 Mace Mastery, so for a total of +5 to Mace Mastery. Which is going to be a pretty nice bump in damage just in general. We also have 220% enhanced damage on this thing, which does vary from 180 to 220%. Then we got the 50% crushing blow on here, which is massive. So if you were unfamiliar with how crushing blow works, crushing blow is a chance to deal 25% damage to a target. Basically, 25% of their hit points are just simply stripped away. Their current hit points, not their total. This is nerfed, however, versus bosses at 12.5%, and in PvP it is only 10%. But it is still extremely effective. When you hit a target that, for instance, has something like 1,000,000 HP, you're taking off 250,000 of his HP in one hit, which can be massive. However, when the monster's HP is going down and down and down and down, down, the less HP the monster has, the less effective Crushing Blow becomes, and just generally doesn't work very well versus those monsters anymore, which is usually what they call Crushing Blow Diminishing Returns. We also have a very nice +25 strength on here, which is a very nice off-weapon ED bonus. So this is going to give us a bonus damage of 25% off-weapon ED, because it is 1% per strength point. So 25% off-weapon ED added in to what we've already got. Then we also have all resistances 20, which is nice, because this is a two-handed weapon, and we are foregoing a shield. So it's nice to have a little bit of resistances on there. And of course the 50% damage bonus to Undead, which is off-weapon ED as well. Now this can come in the ethereal form, and it is 252 to 374 damage in the ethereal form, with 114 strength requirement instead of 124. Now the interesting thing about this is it can be upgraded, because this is only the exceptional level version of the item. And to upgrade it, you're going to need a Pull Rune, a Lum Rune, and a Perfect Emerald. And it does seem like I might be out of Lum Runes, but that's okay. I have an infinite supply of Lum Runes, as I always like to talk about on my streams. I'll be right back. Alright, so upgrading this to the elite tier is going to take a Pull Rune, a Lum Rune, and a Perfect Emerald. And we're going to go from 169 to 249 damage, 124 strength, level 48, to 246 to 339 damage, 225 strength requirement, and level 58. Notice that it's actually surprisingly low in level requirement. One of the big issues, though, 225 strength is a lot. And it's a lot of strength. Now, granted, the Ogre Maul, which is what it turns into, is the same thing that you would look at for something like the Immortals King's Stone Crusher. And quite honestly, this is higher damage than the IK Maul. It has higher crushing blow than the IK Maul. However, it is slower than the IK Maul because IK Maul, of course, has the 40% increased attack speed on it, and this does not. But IK Maul is level 76, and the Blood Tree Stump is level 58 when it's upgraded. So you could potentially utilize this a lot sooner than you could the IK Maul, especially with other pieces of the IK set, almost in like a pseudo kind of a situation, because the IK boots are 31, the belt is 29, the gauntlets are 30, the helmet is 47. The only two high pieces really are the armor and the weapon, and you would essentially be utilizing the IK set with the Blood Tree Stump instead of the IK Maul. Not bad, but let's take a look at the ethereal version. Let's see how the ethereal version upgrades. So we're going to go from 252 to 374 damage, 114 strength, level 48, to 368 to 508 damage, 215 strength, level 58. Not bad. However, to utilize it, you would have to Zod it. So let's take a look and see what that would look like with a Zod rune, shall we? So it's going to go to level 76. Level 76 is the exact same level as the IK Maul. So if you were going to build a Mace Barbarian and you wanted a very interesting two-handed mace, the Blood Tree Stump is certainly an interesting option. I mean, it does offer some very interesting effects like +2 Masteries, +3 Mace Mastery, 50% crushing blow, as well as all resistances and a pretty decent amount of plus strength. Which could potentially help you utilize a higher strength piece of equipment without having to pump those points. And as you can see, it's about 2,053 to 2,859 damage. If we were to swap to something like Whirlwind or Berserk, let's try Berserk first. Berserk is 6,669. And let's go to Whirlwind. I kind of want to see what Whirlwind is going to be. Whirlwind is 2,642 to 3,672. Now, the main problem with Whirlwind, of course, like we were talking about earlier, is that this is a relatively slow weapon, and it does mean that Whirlwind is going to work less effectively with this than other objects. You're going to need a large amount of increased attack speed to counter the fact that it's such a slow weapon, and I'm not really sure how well it's going to work in a hell scenario. As you can see, I'm whirlwinding my butt off here, and nothing's dead yet. Can't really see their HP. That's one of the big problems I feel like Whirlwind really needs to address. I think they need to, like, when you activate Whirlwind, like, some little HP bars need to, like, pop up above their head. Very simple. They don't need to be like the ones that we're seeing here, but like you need to be able to actually see what the hell you're doing, what kind of progress you're making, whether or not you're doing anything, because otherwise you don't know. Like with Whirlwind, you're just not aware of what the hell is going on while you're in the Whirlwind state. You can't use potions when you're in the Whirlwind state. You can't see the monster's HP unless you stop whirlwinding and click on them. Like it's a little bit of a pain in the butt. As you can see in Players 5 Hell, it doesn't do like super terrible, but it's not the greatest. I really need more increased attack speed with this, and that's one of the issues with getting the Zotted version, is that you can't shale it, so you can't make it attack faster, which is an issue. It's a pretty big issue with this particular series of like whirlwinding type items. I'm sure that if I was using Berserk instead, and I went out here and just Berserked every monster one at a time, probably would freaking absolutely demolish. Yeah, just demolishing. It's just Whirlwind in general, just it doesn't apply damage properly unless you've got it set up right. And if you do have it set up right, it does pretty well. But there's just so much going on with Whirlwind to make sure everything is working correctly that I feel like something like Blood Tree Stump is a very specific item that's going to require a very specific gear set. Like you may be using Treachery so that you get the 45% increased. You might be using two 15% IAS jewels in your Immortal King's Will helmet. You know, there's a lot of different things that could change here and there. Like, for instance, I could be using High Lord's Wrath instead of Mara's Kaleidoscope for a little bit more attack speed there. And obviously, I would be trying to hit a specific breakpoint to make sure that I'm hitting as fast as humanly possible with this big, giant Blood Tree Stump. Let's take a look over on Silas Pen real quick, and let's see where you could potentially find this if you wanted to get your hands on it. I don't think I've ever had issues actually finding one of these. In fact, I think they drop all the frickin' time, everywhere, which is kind of silly. But like, I'm not being exaggerative when I say this, because I feel like I literally have found like probably 100 of them in my time playing Diablo 2 Resurrected alone. So we look like we've got Mephisto and Nightmare 1 in 887, Diablo and Nightmare 1 in 926, both good options. Even Hell and Dariel 1 in 1022, so it's pretty much a really good drop chance you're going to get it on a lot of these bosses. Super uniques, we've got the Hell Cow King 1 in 3153, Nightmare Cow King 1 in 8000. I mean, even the super uniques, there's a lot of super uniques here. Battlemaid Serena, Eldritch the Rectifier and Nightmare, Infector of Souls, Shank the Overseer, Doc Farron, Pendleskin. A lot of good choices here for this item. I'm trying to think here, since it is a level 48 item, we're probably assuming like the beginning of Nightmare, right? So, beginning of Nightmare would be Act 1, so let's restrict this to Nightmare. And then let's see if we can find anybody in Act 1 difficulty that can drop this. Throne of Destruction, Cast Sanctuary, Ruined Temple, River of Flame. So it looks like the answer to that question with the super uniques is no. Bosses in Nightmare difficulty. We have Mephisto as the lowest boss on the Nightmare difficulty list. This does not drop in normal from any super uniques or bosses. So it is kind of in a poor situation, unfortunately, as far as drops go. You're going to have to get it from a higher level monster, which means that generally when it comes to Blood Tree Stump, you're probably not going to have it for a character on level. If you're solo self-found or anything like that, it's probably going to be something that you're going to twink to your Barbarian, which is basically the process of giving your character items that they would not otherwise normally be able to obtain given their level. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we are swinging around a bloody tree stump. And as always, keep swinging.